Internet Court notes that the original poster did not realize a decision had already been made until the paperwork was sitting on the kitchen table. According to the Post, it wasn't presented as a discussion. It wasn't framed as a request. It was simply there, printed, organized, and quietly waiting to be signed. The poster remembers noticing how carefully the documents had been arranged, as if order alone could make the moment feel neutral. Nothing had been argued yet, no voices were raised, but the poster describes a tightening awareness that something fundamental had shifted. This was not about the papers themselves. It was about what signing them would mean, and what refusing to sign them might cost. The relationship had always been described as stable, responsible, built on mutual planning rather than impulse. And yet, standing there, the poster realized that agreeing in silence might protect that stability, or permanently redefine it. According to the submission, the partner was calm, patient, certain this step was reasonable. The poster, however, felt something else, the sense that choosing not to object would also be a choice. Internet Court enters this case under review with a single unresolved question. At what point does cooperation become consent to a future you did not fully agree to? The original poster explains that they had been in a committed relationship for just over 6 years. They were not married, but they had lived together for 4. Their finances were mostly separate, though shared expenses were handled reliably and without conflict. According to the Post, trust had never been loud in their relationship. It existed in routines, in showing up on time, in paying bills without reminders, in decisions that were discussed early and revisited often. Buying property had always been discussed as a long-term goal, but never as an immediate one. The poster states that they had agreed explicitly that major financial decisions would be made together and only when both felt ready. What normal looked like, according to the submission, was conversation before commitment, spreadsheets reviewed together, time taken to think. The partner, described as pragmatic and future-oriented, had recently received a promotion that significantly increased their income. The poster, by contrast, worked in a stable but lower-paying field and carried student loan debt. There was no resentment described, only difference. The idea of home ownership had surfaced more frequently after the promotion, but always hypothetically. The poster recalls conversations framed as someday rather than soon. No ultimatums were issued, no pressure was named, which is why the paperwork felt so destabilizing. According to the Post, the partner explained that an opportunity had come up unexpectedly, a property priced well below market value, a chance that didn't make sense to pass up. The expectation, unstated but implied, was that they would move forward together. The poster did not disagree out loud. Internet Court notes that the original poster does not describe a single betrayal, but rather a pattern that only became visible in hindsight. According to the submission, this was not the first time decisions had advanced faster than discussion. Smaller examples are mentioned. Lease renewals signed before a final conversation, travel plans booked before dates were fully confirmed, financial assumptions made without explicit agreement. Each instance, taken alone, seemed practical, efficient, easy to accommodate. The poster admits to having rationalized these moments as compatibility rather than imbalance. There is a reflective pause in the post where the original poster acknowledges a recurring internal thought. It's easier to adjust than to disrupt. Another pause follows, quieter. The poster writes that they had begun to equate flexibility with maturity and resistance with immaturity. They describe moments of hesitation, questions that rose but were dismissed. doubts that felt too minor to justify slowing things down. According to the Post, the partner never dismissed concerns when they were raised, but the concerns were often raised late after momentum had already formed. The poster notes that disagreement always felt like arriving after the conclusion. There is a subtle recognition in the submission that silence had become a strategy, not out of fear, but out of habit. Internet Court observes that the poster does not frame themselves as powerless. Instead, they frame themselves as accommodating, believing that accommodation preserved harmony. Another reflective pause appears when the poster asks whether harmony that depends on one person yielding is actually shared. Still, no confrontation occurred. The documents on the table represented more than a purchase. According to the Post, signing would mean contributing to a mortgage that the poster's name would not initially be on. The partner explained this as temporary, citing credit considerations and timing. It would also mean relocating farther from the poster's workplace, increasing commute costs, and limiting flexibility. The partner did not demand an answer immediately. They simply assumed agreement. This, Internet Court notes, is where the moral decision occurred. The poster describes sitting with the documents later that evening, alone. They considered the tangible stakes: housing security, shared equity, financial exposure. They also considered the emotional stakes: trust, partnership, the risk of being seen as unsupportive. According to the submission, confronting the issue would not end the relationship, but it might change how decisions were approached. Staying silent would keep the peace, but at a cost that felt increasingly permanent. The poster chose not to argue. Instead, they asked for time. They did not accuse. They did not refuse outright. They requested a pause, a boundary framed as process rather than opposition. This request, according to the Post, altered the tone immediately. Internet Court observes that the aftermath was restrained, not explosive. The partner agreed to wait, but their disappointment was evident. Conversations became more formal, less spontaneous. According to the Post, the opportunity was eventually lost. Another buyer moved faster. No blame was assigned openly, but the shift was felt. The partner began handling financial matters more independently. Plans were shared later, not earlier. The poster notes a new distance. Not anger, but recalibration. Housing security remained intact, but certainty did not. The relationship continued, but the rhythm changed. Decision-making became cautious. Trust felt quieter, more conditional. There was no breakup, no dramatic fallout, just an awareness that something had been named and could not be unnamed. In the final section, the original poster does not ask whether they were right. They ask whether silence would have been easier and whether ease should have been the goal. They reflect that setting a boundary protected them financially, but introduced emotional risk. They acknowledge that their partner may have felt unsupported, just as they had felt unheard. Internet Court notes that the Post does not seek validation. It seeks perspective. Was asking for time an act of responsibility or a failure to commit? Was silence cooperation or self-erasure? The case is submitted without a verdict. Internet Court leaves the matter for consideration. You may render your own verdict in the comments. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, be sure to hit like and subscribe. It's always appreciated.